Well, good afternoon, friends in Malawi. Good morning to those of you in Scotland. A very warm welcome to this Scotland-Malawi Partnership Agriculture and Food Security Forum. Everybody is equally welcome and encouraged to participate. There's no pecking order beyond being able to hear our valued speakers today. I'm Stuart Brown from the Scotland-Malawi Partnership staff. I'll be facilitating this morning's conversation. The forum exists to help support and connect those involved in this sector in dignified two-way partnerships and links between Scotland and Malawi in this theme. Our forums are about sharing lessons learned, looking for opportunities to collaborate where it's appropriate, and making offers and asks of one another. Please do make strong use of the chat function today to introduce yourself. If you'd like to share your contacts, you're very welcome to do that, but do remember that this video will go online after the event. If you're watching this as a recording, you people from the future are very welcome too. Please also feel very welcome to ask questions in chat, make any constructive points, or share links to resources. The link to today's agenda is posted in chat. As you'll see, we'll start in Malawi with the fundamentals of food security and the 6 main food groups, hearing from MASP's Programme Manager, Linda Dembo. Then to growth and permaculture in Malawi, a UK climate network working together with Luwayo Biswick, one of Malawi's leading lights in permaculture. Sticking with sustainability, Joyce Phiri will speak of the importance of trade and agriculture and the value-add process of Mzuzu coffee. The Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office's Senior Commercial Agricultural Advisor, Simon Calvert, will give an update from FCDO, and we'll have time for Q&A and discussion. Then Malawi Youth Climate Leader Brenda Mwali will lead us into a section on forestry, a vital issue for Malawi and especially appropriate to members as we approach COP26 in Glasgow. Forestry and Sustainable Plantations consultant Andrew Heald, who's an active SMP member, will share insights on sustainable forestry delivering for communities, sharing lessons from Uganda and Ghana. Finally, Malawi Youth Climate Leader Wongani Kapatamoyo and the CEO of Malawi Fruits, Kevin Simpson, will speak of the projects in which they are involved, respectively, in agriculture and renewables. And again, there'll be more time then for Q&A and discussion. So to our first speaker, Linda, very much welcome, and over to you.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here. I hope you can hear me. Great. I'll be sharing on the 6 main groups, but I've kind of changed my presentation a bit because I thought, why should we just talk of the 6 main groups? Maybe we should talk of achieving food security in Malawi, more or less. My presentation, I chose this topic, the 6 main groups. I was remembering the time I was in primary school, and then we were to memorize the definition of agriculture. What is agriculture? Agriculture is the art of growing crops and rearing animals. That's how we memorized it that time. I think I was in standard 5 in my primary school years. And then I was thinking of why we really had time to talk of agriculture, and that time we were talking of 3 main groups of food, but now we are talking of 6 main groups of food. Now, why should we talk of 6 main groups if we can't really achieve food security? Why should we achieve food security? And how do these two connect? So I'll take you through my presentation where I give a background information about the National Geographical Survey has defined agriculture, not very different from what I had memorized when I was in primary school. But Malawi heavily relies on agriculture for its socio-economic development. And as you can see the figures there, agriculture contributes 30% of Malawi's GDP and 90% of its export earnings, and 70% employment. And this was a quote from the former Minister of Agriculture, Irrigation and Water Development in 2020. What are the causes of food insecurity in Malawi? So when you're talking of food insecurity in Malawi, we're looking at issues of chronic poverty, low agricultural productivity, poor infrastructure, we have ecological constraints, inappropriate economic policies, and we also have limited arable land. You know, Malawi is a growing economy, so there's so many things happening in Malawi. Everybody wants to have something, but at the end of the day, we want to be healthy and we want to have food. We want to have to just not just eat food, but we want to be healthy and eat food that is healthy. Not necessarily looking at the food is security, that we have food on our table, but what is the type of food that is on our table? Despite all these problems, but we should have food. But the main challenges that are really causing us to have insecurities in food are natural disasters, such as droughts, floods, and crop destruction. We have diseases and adverse effects of the country's national floods. We have poor land use management. You know, people have encroached the arable lands and have built their houses there. And there are so many natural disasters that are actually affecting the use of our land. And then we also have food in utilization in Malawi. It's actually generally poor. So inadequate knowledge of the values of food choices, a combination of the Malawi 6 food groups, feeding practices, gender issues, and intra-household distribution, ways that are benefiting nutritionally for the available food. The nutrition education primary targets women, and yet decision makers are usually, or most of the times, men. So at the center of my presentation is that pyramid, the 6 major food groups. So we have the fats, the milk, the vegetables, the meat, the fruit. But how many Malawians really know the importance of these 6 major food groups? And how to achieve, you know, that kind of balance to say we need to have all these food groups in order for us to be healthy. I think at the center of it all, it's about food security. Do we have food to eat today? Do we have food to eat tomorrow? But not necessarily thinking of having that kind of a balance in your food diet. Just kind of a reminder of the 6 major food groups as put on the pyramid. I know we are aware of it. So we have from the bottom there the vegetable group, where vegetable is a part of a plant and consumed by humans. And this is what we eat every day. And we have the grains. You know, Malawi, our staple food is maize. And we eat maize, sima, each and every day. And we have the fruits, which are readily available during the rainy seasons. And we have the dairy products, which are not really, you know, sometimes we find milk, sometimes we don't. And we go to meat, and the sources of meat, they're iron, zinc, and vitamin B12. And some examples of meat, they include chicken and salmon. And oils and sweets, these are the top of the pyramid and provide a lot of calories that include oils, soft drinks, and etc. And for food security in Malawi, my recommendations are we need to integrate sustainable agriculture practices such as conservation agriculture, which includes crop rotation, intercropping, and food-resistant crops. We know in Malawi, most of the agricultural practices are being done by women. let's strive to have a gender equity. And then we empower the women so that when they are doing their agricultural practices, they have that six food group in mind, so that they are able to grow crops that are vast, and also they should be able to rear animals that can produce milk for their daily use. Not just to think of money, but they should think of rearing animals and growing crops for consumption as well. And when we need also to have good capacity building skills and use innovations such as use of inoculants in crops that require inoculants, and other new interventions that can come to use during their planting. Thank you so much.
Linda, thanks very much indeed for that very useful scene setter of the fundamentals and reminding us of Malawi's reliance on agriculture for food security and for socio-economic development. Your point on gender is very interesting as well, and in the closing slide today, we'll be reminding everybody of the excellent Malawian documentary supported by Take One Action on the Scotland and Malawi Partnership, The Ants and the Grasshopper. So a small trail there to look out for the Ants and the Grasshopper documentary. Turning to Lesley Willis, a trustee of Alton Climate Action Network. Thanks very much for joining us this morning, Lesley. Your colleague Jenny Griffiths got in touch with the Scotland and Malawi Partnership to introduce us to Luwayo Biswick and to tell us a little bit about your network's connection and inspirational contact with Luwayo. I wonder if you'd tell us a little bit about that and introduce him, please.
Thank you, Stuart. Yes, hello, I'm Lesley and I live in Alton in Hampshire. I'm a member of Alton Climate Action Network, ACAN, and about 2 years ago we decided to support the Gumby Education Fund in Malawi. Then in early 2020, as the schools there were closing due to the pandemic, we were able to support 4 young men from Gumby to spend 6 months at the wonderfully named Permaculture Paradise Institute. They were followed by 5 young women who also wanted to have some training, and they went for 3 months, finishing in June this year. We've now helped to buy a 3-acre plot of land, the Gumby Alton Paradise plot, where the Gumby 9 can put their training into practice as a demonstration project, teaching their own generation how to grow a wide variety of foods all the year round. They will be guided by the inspirational founder-director of the Permaculture Paradise Institute, Luwayo Biswick, who trained them. And it's with great pleasure that I introduce Luwayo to you to talk about his vision of food production in Malawi that is not dependent on the monoculture of maize, vulnerable to disease and drought as a result of the climate crisis. We are so grateful to him for the work he is doing to change the lives of impoverished people in Gumby and in the rest of Malawi. So over to you, Luwayo.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Luwayo Biswick, the founding director of Permaculture Paradise Institute. We are based in Chinji district. And my presentation will be based on our project. So Permaculture Paradise Institute was founded by Grace and I. Grace is my wife. If you look at the name on the screen, it says Grace Luwayo Princess. So that's our family name. In 2018, we decided to quit job and establish a business model in Malawi to demonstrate how locally available resources in Malawi could be used to alleviate the challenges that people face. And in the presentation here, I'm going to use all the pictures from the permaculture paradise so you can have a little glimpse of what we do and how we are helping to address the challenges of Malawi and how permaculture is contributing to the national development as well as food and nutrition security. So one would have a question why we had to quit job. We wanted to create a model and future for like where a majority of the people in Malawi become mind independent with self-esteem that would create possibilities of an effective life, because we realized that most of the people in Malawi are poor, jobless, and malnourished, and most of them face many challenges. So we wanted to establish a model farm because we live in a country whose majority of the people are smallholder farmers and they're poor. Like Linda mentioned, over 85% of the farmers in Malawi are subsistence farmers. Unfortunately, 50% of the kids under the age of 5 are nutritionally stunted. So, you know, having born and grown from poor families, we realized that Malawi needs a paradigm shift. So Permaculture Paradise Institute is home to over 200 foods, of which 90% of the foods that we grow native to Malawi and Africa, and most of them do not need chemicals, fertilizers, and hybrid seeds. So the type of farming that we promote in Malawi, it's a very easy and cheap type of farming that provide for the needs of the people, but also help to maintain and facilitate ecosystem processes. So it is a type of farming that provide for the needs of the people and surplus benefit the ecological system. So that is one of the model, that was one of the examples of some of the gardens that we've got at the Permaculture Paradise Institute. We demonstrate how people could transform their backyards into food forest, a food forest that does not require a lot of energy, time, money, and inputs, bearing in mind that Malawi need to boost its nutrition because right now we've got a huge population of people who are nutritionally stunted. Now, if our focus is just on maize production, that's when we see the problems continuing to rise, because maize alone cannot address the food and nutrition security. So we need to look at the 6 food group model. But if we are to eat 6, to grow 6 food groups. So the problem is that in our agriculture systems, most of our farms are dominated by short-term monocropped fields, not a diverse range of foods like what you can see in this picture. We also use our grey water to irrigate water-loving plants like bananas. So we grow bananas without the need for too much high-tech irrigation systems, but by just using water from our shower room, we are able to grow all of our bananas. So most of the bananas in Malawi are imported from elsewhere, but if each one of us, of the 17.5 million people in Malawi, had the ability and the capacity to produce their own food from within the areas they live or the spaces they live, we could literally address the hunger problem. Not just hunger, but malnutrition problem, as well as poverty, even unemployment. Because if each family of the families in Malawi are able to produce their own food from the household level, then that means we do not need money to buy food, because each one of us will be producing their own food and surplus will be sold. And we can start exporting some of the produce, and then that can be helping to generate income to support our operations or whatever we need at the household level and at national level. And then edible car parks. So permaculture is a design science. We try to design every piece of land so that it's productive. So we maximize the use of every piece of land so it provides for our needs, whether it's oxygen, medicine, food, building supplies, economic needs, and the like. So this is an example of an edible car park where we've got plenty of food, plenty of vegetables, staples, and herbs that provide for our needs. And we also use black water to grow food like bananas. So all of our water from flush toilets is flushed into a banana pit where the water is used to irrigate the bananas, and the fecal material and urine is composted into compost that turns into fertilizer. Scientific proven research shows that the amount of urine a single person loses per year is equivalent to the amount of fertilizer that we can use to grow food. That means every person on the planet Earth has the ability to produce their own fertilizer and grow their own food. So this is an example at Permaculture Paradise Institute to demonstrate that Malawi is not poor, but the people need a paradigm shift. We need to change our mindset, the way we look at food, and we need to redefine our food system. So food does not just mean maize, it means diversity, as Linda said. So we've got urban aquaponics to demonstrate how we harvest water from our roofs. So this is rainwater harvesting into fish ponds where we've got aquatic plants and animals. And these water hyacinths are used to produce biogas for cooking, as well as purify our water. And then the end product is used as fertilizer. So food is grown, fertilizer is produced, and then animals are also incorporated. There's a huge problem affecting a lot of people in Malawi, issues to do with pests and diseases because of monoculture systems. So in our demonstrations, we've got pest management systems where we incorporate edible and ornament, as well as ornamental flowers that helps us to suppress issues to do with weeds, pests, as well as manage our diseases, problems in our garden. And then in the rural areas, we've got examples where we demonstrate how people in the rural areas can still be growing food, even in the areas, in the remotest areas without enough water. They can grow drought-tolerant crops like cassava. So the more they diversify on their farm, the more they diversify on their plate. So Malawi has got 12 solid months to grow food. Unfortunately, most of the farmers utilize only 3 months of the year to produce their own food. And this is one of the challenges. So almost 9 months of the year, 8-9 months of the year, most of the farmers abandon their fields, and the fields are left bare and dormant for like 9 months, yet we've got 12 solid months to grow food. So these are such kind of crops that could be grown even in drought, marginalized land, drought-prone areas, even in the areas where people do not have access to fertilizer. Then, bearing in mind that a lot of people in Malawi do not own land, and they depend on rented land, we've got a quarter-acre model where we demonstrate 4-meter diameter rondavels as small structures which Malawians can be building, and the surrounding could be dominated by plants, edible plants. So this is a quarter-acre model to demonstrate a small house and edible gardens, edible landscape around it. Then, this is the inside of the Rwandavel. We also demonstrate rain-fed agriculture dryland, and these are some of the harvests. You can see some of the cassava that we do harvest on the farm without the use of chemicals and fertilizer, and then without the need for too much energy. So 10 beds gives us 1,000 kilograms. And if you weigh that cassava, a single root weighs up to 5.5 kilograms, and it can grow up to 1.5 meters. Then we also do demonstrate rain-fed agriculture in the wetland, where we grow rice and other water-loving plants. So you can see, by diversifying our crops on the land, we live in the phases of abundance. We grow our food year-round, and we produce our food year-round, and we harvest our food year-round. There's never a time of the year in Malawi where you can say it's too dry and we can't grow food. It's too cold, we can't grow food. This is the reason why at Permaculture Paradise Institute, we are able to grow food year-round. And these are our orchards, where we demonstrate how we can establish food forests, productive, diversified food forest, using all the forest strata, all the layers of a forest, and make those layers productive. So we do not just promote organic, we are also promoting diversity so that we have food year round. Then we also promote natural tree regeneration, where we keep our heritage, we keep our knowledge, we keep our ancestral foods. So, you know, we would like to demonstrate to the world that we can have Malawian food, Malawian enterprise, Malawian price, where we have African Malawian products promoted, and defined as the African enterprise and have an African price. So when we are exporting African products, we can determine our own price. So that's how we can curb the issue to do with poverty, because if we are focusing on a single crop, that's a simple application to poverty. But if we are diversifying, we can also maximize or boost our enterprises. Then these are some of the fruits that we get from the forests. These are natural forests we never planted. So we've got, like I said, over 200 foods that we've got on the farm, that 90% of it is just bushland, things that we never planted. So these are just examples of foods, the fruits that we get, we never planted. And we also keep animals on the farm, animal integration. But then besides the domestic animals that we've got on the farm, we also promote edible caterpillars, edible worms, and edible crickets. These are natural delicacies that are ignored in Malawi. So we are promoting such kind of things that if we take it on the market, it's just us and we can determine the price. And that's how we can make a lot of money and cap the issue to do with poverty, as well as on the other side, we are addressing the issue to do with food and nutrition security. I thank you so much. Thank you all.
Luwayo, thank you so much for sharing with us the brave jump that you and Grace have made, and the brilliant wealth of different work that you're involved with, clearly embracing the challenge of the size of population to feed on the important issue that you raise of diversity of foods, as mentioned by Linda, and of nutritional stunting. I think really important the point that you began with about locally available resources in Malawi, and 200 different foods, 90% of which are native to Malawi or other parts of Africa. The exciting backyard to a food forest, and the edible car park, and looking at the quarter acre model, a real wealth. Thank you so much. You've clear fans in Hampshire, with James saying that you're a total star, and we can see why. So thank you very much indeed. To trade and agriculture now, and to Joyce Phiri, who's the CEO of Fair Trade Scotland, also the chair of the Association of Malawians in Scotland, and a valued member of the Scotland-Malawi Partnership. Joyce, over to you.
Thank you, Stuart. I'm just amazed by Luwayo's work. Really, I think I saw a program, I think on Times, you're on Times. I was just like, I need to go to Nchinji and meet this guy when I'm in Malawi. So thanks very much for explaining that. I'll be coming. Yes, so taking from what Linda has said and Luwayo has said, we see the importance of growing the cash crops for food. But then I'm coming in on the importance of importing Malawi products packaged and produced in country. Because I truly believe that Malawi is not going to get out of poverty if we continue the way we are going. I quote what the former Minister for International Development, Dr. Alton, had said. He said, the Scottish government leveraged to Malawi businesses to become equal and trade partners. So basing on that, I was so excited to see that, okay, we've got this partnership that we can help Malawi farmers. Just a wee bit of an introduction to myself. I'm a farmer's daughter. So I grew up with parents who were tobacco farmers, but also we had to plant our own food and stuff. So I know that we can plant enough to eat, but the crops that we are talking about really centers of things like coffee. Not a lot of Malawians drink coffee. Am I right? You can correct me, maybe things have changed, but not a lot of us drink coffee. So coffee is a crop that on its own, we can help Malawian farmers come out of poverty. But it's not just about coffee. it's about looking at how the product is being produced or taken out of Malawi. So we've got a lot of things coming out of Malawi as raw products. My plea to that is that then the farmer gets almost absolutely nothing. You know, farming in Malawi is a very, very hard job. You know, so we really need to look and see, are there any products in Malawi that we can produce and package in country for the products to have value added. So we're talking about things like honey, we're talking about things like sugar, but also small things like macadamia nuts. You know, we've got a lot of coconut in Malawi. Here you can see coconut products, you know, whether it's for lotion and stuff. So my plea really is to see how we can bring Malawi products on the market. I came in post as CEO for Fair Trade Scotland in January. And honestly, I've gone on a big learning journey. And it saddens me, it really saddens me that we're talking about promoting Malawi farmers, but then we don't really look what it is that the farmers are saying, or we are not really hearing the voices of the farmers. So we want to take the good examples, like, for example, what Luwayo is doing, but then we ignore the challenges, like, for example, what Mzuzu Coffee is facing. Mzuzu Coffee is the only coffee in the whole world to have 2 trademarks, WTF4 and Fair Trade. Why is Mzuzu Coffee not in our shops in Scotland? You know, why is Mzuzu Coffee not on international market? And those are the things that I've seen that saddens me, and say, surely we can create a platform whereby we're engaging with farmers in a good way. We've got the education forums. I'm not talking about the Zoom forums, but the schools in Scotland are linked with schools in Malawi, right? The health department in Scotland are linked with hospitals or whatever health is happening in Malawi. Where is the farmers' linkage here? So I would like us to see, Scotland is a farming country itself. Is it possible then to create a space whereby Malawi farmers and Scottish farmers are exchanging ideas? I know the farming methods are different, but surely there are 2 things that these 2 groups can help each other and support each other. Stuart mentioned the film, The Ants and the Grasshoppers. I mean, I encourage you to go and see it and see how climate change has affected these farmers. I don't want us 5 years down the line to start jumping with aid going to Malawi, when we can actually support Malawian farmers right now at this moment, when they're saying to us, look what's happening here. There's a mention in the film which says the greed economy is killing us. And it is greed, it is capitalism. And as long as we continue taking raw products from Malawi, we should know that we are not enabling those farmers to produce, to have some profit from their products. We are continuing this same, greed, in as much as we think we are doing better. So I think now, to be able to promote trade, we need to see and hear the farmers in Malawi. For example, Luwayo's products, where are they going? I buy cassava here. Cassava is not planted in Scotland, so it comes from somewhere, whether it's Nigerian stuff. Why is Malawian cassava not on the market? And those are the things, those are the questions that I keep asking myself. And I know maybe there are logistic problems with either travel and stuff, but of course there will be logistics problems if we only have one single product coming here, one single product coming here. So I urge you, let's sit down and think how we can support Malawi farmers to be able to support their own families rather than being aid dependent. So trade, not aid, is the way forward. Our president, Dr. Lazarus Chakwera, has continuously is saying the same things. We're not going to develop with aid. Thanks very much for the aid you give us, but at the moment, try and promote social enterprises to make sure that Malawi, and especially Malawi, is a young country, in terms that a lot of people are under the age of 40. Though I don't want to see another 20 years of them and their children depending on aid. I thank you.
Joyce, thanks very much indeed. All of your points very welcome and heard. We do very much want to hear the voices of Malawian farmers. We have ongoing conversations, don't we, Joyce, around contacts with people in positions of power and trade. I think we recognise the power of multinational organisations in this private sector as well, and it would be interesting to hear from some of them perhaps as well. Now, Simon Calvert, Senior Commercial Agricultural Advisor at FCDO, is a faithful and regular participant in these food and agriculture forums. Simon, thanks very much for making time again. Over to you for an update from FCDO, please. Oh dear. I'm afraid I'm hearing rather a distorted voice there. I'm wondering if that's my internet or if somebody could indicate whether they're hearing a problem as well.
Also distorted for me, Stuart.
Thanks very much, David. So I think Simon's gone to go and kick his internet server. I wonder whether in the meantime we might just pause for the moment while Simon tries to fix that, and instead go to our time of Q&A and discussion. Simon, no, I'm afraid we're still getting the kind of Disney voice, unfortunately. So yeah, I'd suggest that we'll move to Q&A. So we've and come back to you, Simon, in five or 10 minutes. I'm conscious that you need to leave us at 11:55 this morning.
Yeah, I've changed microphone. That might
fantastic, work. Fantastic, great. That's loud and clear, and we're getting thumbs up from James and Charles and others. So super. So yeah, do please think of any questions that you'd like to bring after Simon's presentation, please.
Great. Okay, sorry about that, everybody, for the technical difficulties. Thanks for this and the fascinating presentations that we've heard so far. I was just going to give a quick update on what FCDO is doing in Malawi. And to do that, I have 4 slides just to kind of highlight what we're doing in the food and agriculture area. As I mentioned in the chat, I'm a commercial agriculture advisor based over in East Kilbride, working on a global level, but I also do oversee one program that's got a significant amount of work in Malawi. I wanted to start off just highlighting the priorities for us, FCDO, in the world of food and agriculture. And really, when you sort of put them on a screen, you see that how complex and integral the food and agriculture system is to the many of the agendas we're working on. So I know there's a focus on food security today here, and also on sort of climate resilience and climate smart agriculture. A lot of the other areas that are highlighted here around land, around markets, trade, food safety standards and responsible business investment, they're all issues which we're working on in Malawi, but as FCDO, we're working on these across Africa and the Indo-Pacific. I'll just highlight 3 of the main programs that are working in this area in Malawi at the moment. And you can find information on these in, that's all online. If you go to it's called Dev Tracker. I'll put it in the chat later, but you can find lots of detail on every program, an annual review and other things. So the Building Resilience and Adapting to Climate Change program is a huge program where we're working with the UN through Prosper. And it's got a key focus on supporting the climate resilience of farmers. So we have we've been working and providing training and extension services to farmers, and so far the program's reached 80,000 farmers with techniques around soil health and water management. They've been doing assessments of irrigation and doing some feasibility studies to try to extend the extent to which farmers have access to irrigation and therefore are more resilient to climate change. And then for those farmers, particularly in the sort of hanging in area of the slide here in the blue section, where we're helping farmers to survive, really, the distribution of animals to those farmers to give them a workable asset to enable them to protect their own food security has been underway. And finally, the program's also working on making inputs available to farmers, fertilizers and feed and other things, and also making available some financial products, micro insurance and weather-related insurance products. So this is quite a really big area for the office. It's run locally, helping farmers to support their resilience and food security. And a program the one that I manage from the centre, which has got a team based in Malawi, is really then building on that and trying to help farmers to step up and boost their incomes, but also helping SMEs and attracting investment into agribusinesses in the country. So the program in Malawi is focusing on two sectors, poultry and aquaculture. So I think it goes back to the presentation from the beginning, actually, from Linda, around supporting the diversity and the nutritional value of food that's available for the wider population. And so far, the program is expecting to benefit 50,000 smallholder farmers who are involved in poultry and involved in aquaculture. And we're working with organisations like the Small and Medium Poultry Farmers Association, working with Clinton Development Initiative and others to help in terms of building those links with farmers. But then at the same time, we're working with the SMEs that buy from farmers to try to boost demand for the produce that farmers are producing. And so for this, we've at the AGRF forum, which happened just a few weeks ago, I think we had 3 businesses there where we helped them to put together a pitch to investors to try to attract finance into their business model, to either build a feed mill for one company that's looking at working with fish farmers, or to help some of the poultry farmers to extend their operations, to buy more from farmers and to produce more chicken for the local market. This program is ongoing for the next couple of years as well. The final one I wanted to highlight really was around investment and trade, and the 2 development finance institutions that we fund. First of all, CDC Group, which is one of the world's biggest development finance institutions, has been investing in Malawi. Sorry, I used to live in Mozambique. Has been investing in Malawi. And is supporting one of the biggest poultry businesses there, Calvert, and also macadamia outgrower farm structure based in Malawi. And then AgDevco is another investment fund which is actually working ever closer with CDC, and they have also got an investment in the macadamia business, but another one in Kapani, which is a poultry business, helping them to develop more chicken houses and an abattoir. And finally, Fata Sugar, where AgDevco has invested in the Fata Sugar cooperative itself. But I think the sort of future direction and the area where with the newest program is operating is on trade, and the Malawi Trade and Investment Program is looking at trying to develop export value chains to support income generation and to raise the level of rural incomes. They're looking at working in value chains like macadamia, groundnuts, and high-value horticulture. And they're also working on the trading angle to support trade links. So helping unblock border points, helping to put in place IT systems for trade channels, and helping to harmonize standards and policies across the country, and then also with neighboring countries. And that work is being done by Trademark East Africa. It's one of the newest elements of the work of FCDO in Malawi. So that's what I wanted to say. Very much a journey. It's, climate change resilience is integral to everything we do, And we're sort of building onto that really now to sort of focus more on developing the economy and the money earners for the agriculture sector in the future. Thanks, that's everything.
Simon, thanks very much. Indeed, very interesting to hear of the emphasis on poultry and fish, which you anticipate by 24 will impact 50,000 farmers. Your mention of CDC, Graham Wrigley, the chair of CDC, spoke to Scotland and Malawi Partnership Forum in January 2020 and coming to Edinburgh committed to return again. So hopefully we'll be able to engage further with CDC, an important organisation. I wonder if I can turn, conscious of time, to Dr. Charles Howie. Charles, you have a specific question on numbers of farmers for Simon, which you put into chat, and then a broader one on population growth and meeting targets and feeding the nation. We don't have anybody from the government of Malawi, to my knowledge, in this call, but very, very much encourage you to make whichever points you'd like to, and we'll hope to have somebody from the ministry in a future meeting.
Yes, I wanted to make particularly the point about prediction of population growth. I was very interested in Permaculture Paradise Institute. I think it's a lot to be learned from that, and I was very grateful for that. Can I ask the gentleman which part of Malawi Nchinji is in? Is it in the north or the south?
It's in the central, but the easiest way, we have the Zambian border.
Right, thank you. I was interested because in the north of Malawi, rain is more seasonal, I think. And one of the projects which Malawi Fruits and its partner Modern Farming Technology doing is a rent to buy scheme for water pumps. Now that offers the possibility of a second maize crop. And while I much appreciate all that has been said about nutrition insecurity as opposed to food insecurity, people not having enough calories, I certainly understand about not having the right nutrients. That's a big issue, which is we need to lay aside for the moment. But I wondered what potential people saw for growing a second maize crop in the north, because feeding 29 million people with calories is going to be a major challenge if we are to believe the predictions of population growth. And I wondered if anyone would like to comment about that.
From a permaculture perspective, what we do is we try to look at how we can maximize the potential of every square meter before we think about a hectare. So for example, I can give you an example of local yam, which is called Mpama in Malawi, and it's very common in West Africa. So the local yam, a square meter of a local yam gives us 50 kilograms of harvest. Mm. You can't compare that with maize produce. So you can do winter maize, that's not a problem. That's growing maize twice a year. But then we also start looking at how we can uncover some of the crops that do not take too much space, but you would harvest plenty of it within a square meter. So you can like diversify your farm with such kind of crops. You can still grow maize, but then within the spaces, you grow other crops like the yam I just mentioned. Then we have air potatoes. Those are also energy-giving foods. You can get calories from that. So those are staples. If you see on this chart, here, on this chart, this is the 6 food group chart. And then on the staples, you see the yams there, bananas are there. So the bananas are showed. One plant gives us 120 bananas, and there's 3 of us in our family, and we need 6 bananas per day, and we only need 5 banana plants to give us enough bananas for 365 days a year. So you start looking at the crops and in relation to the land itself, instead of just saying how much, let's say, how can we grow enough maize for 17, 20 million, 30 million people, but we start looking at other options. So that's from the permaculture perspective. Thank you.
And how acceptable is eating yam to people who are very much into eating maize?
We're just reminding them because these are ancestral crops. So we adopted the crops from our ancestors. So we're just reminding the present generation that these are the crops, these are the foods that our parents used to eat. So all the people in Malawi who've been here for over a decade will tell you that these are the crops, these are the staples that we used to eat. Because maize was brought into Africa from Central America. So we used to grow yams, air potatoes, sweet potatoes, and some cassava, types of cassava, sorghum, finger millet, blush millet. So all these are crops that do not need fertilizers and chemicals. Unfortunately, the obsession on maize has kind of like dominated our minds and everything.
Yes. Thank you.
Very
Thank
interesting to hear of
Thank
these ancestor crops. Thanks very much, Luwayo. Would anybody else like to come in, perhaps particularly with a question for Simon from FCDO before he needs to leave for another meeting? Okay. Anybody else with any other question for anybody else before we move on?
Could I ask Simon if FCO is investing any money in research in Malawi to improve the nutrition properties of current crops?
Am I making the right sound in responding to this?
Yes.
Yes, thanks.
Yes, fantastic. On those current programs that I just described, no, but we are funding. We're a major funder of the CJAR, which is working on developing all sorts of varieties of more nutritious, more drought resilient crops for farmers. I think it's into the hundreds of millions, our funding for that. It uses a lot of UK researchers as well as global researchers to achieve that.
Because the reason I ask is it's all very well providing people with or enabling people to purchase solar powered water pumps, but if they're just going to grow the same crops as before, that's not going to meet the mark. And it's now is a great opportunity to make a step change, not only to grow more crops, but to grow better crops. So I wondered what the British government's contribution to that was. So it's through CGIAR.
Yep. I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you.
Super, thanks very much indeed. And moving on, my apologies, we're slightly behind time. But turning to forestry.
Stuart, a quick question.
Oh yes, Joyce.
Sorry, you can't see my hand on the thing, but I want to ask Simon that what's the criteria for the farmers to access the funding? Or how do they select the farmers they're supporting?
So it depends on the projects. For example, with the project, the CASA project, they're looking at the partners who work with farmers, whether they're existing suppliers of a business and working backwards to the farmer network and supporting them, or the likes of organizations like the Smallholder Medium Poultry Farmers Association, for example. They're doing a massive outreach across the country to all poultry farmers that they can find to bring them into their organization. Or the Clinton Development Institute, it goes out and looks for farmers that are producing the crops that are required and then works with them in order to bring them into the project. So it depends really, depending on the program.
Right, okay. Because I'm just thinking of the small medium farmers in the villages, that how do they hear about the funding that's there and stuff like that? Are we excluding a group of people because of lack of knowledge what's there on the ground? Anyway, thank you.
Yeah.
Joyce, Simon, thanks very much indeed for that. Turning to forestry, which, as we know, is a major factor in Malawi and particularly appropriate as we anticipate COP at the end of next month into November in Glasgow. So Brenda Mwali is one of the Malawi youth climate leaders. Brenda, are you with us? I didn't see Brenda listed in participants, but sometimes we appear in Galaxy 365 and iPhone 12, and so it can be difficult to tell, can't it? I know that Andrew is with us. Andrew, healed. I wonder if you would be happy to speak first. So Andrew's an active member of the SNP. I've long hoped that Andrew would be able to speak at a forum, and finally we've managed to make that happen, not through any fault of Andrew's, I might add, but just busy calendars. So Andrew, you're going to share with us lessons from Uganda and Ghana.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen, see if I can just do that quickly. Of course, I can't see the thing I want to share. Apologies, I can't see the PowerPoint. I was going to, hang on, might be, there we go. Can everyone see that okay?
It says it's just starting.
Okay.
Yeah, there we are now.
Great. Okay. So thank you again. Thank you very much, Stuart, for inviting me to speak. And I followed the SNP Malawi partnership with great interest for several years, and I've chatted to Stuart about the opportunities around forestry and plantations, and about whether we can do things and share lessons between Scotland and Malawi, and whether there's any benefit from some of the lessons I've learned in my career and what I've been involved with around plantation forestry. So as I say, my background, I'm a professional forester, and I've been lucky to work in Scotland and in North Wales, where I grew up. But for a lot of the last 10 or 15 years, I've been working internationally, particularly in South America, but also in Ghana and Uganda, and a little bit in South Africa, but sadly I've never been to Malawi. And I've worked for a range of organizations, from quite a few different forestry companies, and I've also worked with and for World Wildlife Fund and FSC, who are the Forestry Stewardship Council. And I now run my own company and work as a consultant around some of these challenges around how to build large-scale forest landscape restoration projects, and how to do that sustainably, working with local communities. And the challenge that really interests me, I suppose, more than anything else, is how do we decarbonize our economies, and how do we do that sustainably? And I'm just going to talk about that for about 5 minutes or so, and I try and share a few lessons, but what those lessons have taught me is how to ask better questions, I think, and how to have, maybe 10 years ago, I was more confident in having answers. And now I think the experience has taught me to have asked better questions. So I've posted a link to a website called New Generation Plantations that I've been involved with for a long time. And at the end, I'll post a link to a film we made in Uganda as well. It's a short film, only about 8 minutes, but hopefully it paints a good picture, and again, raises some of these questions and some of these, some of the challenges. And I think there are common challenges around integrated landscapes. And I suppose that's what we're talking about in these challenges, whether it's agriculture or food security or biodiversity, is integrated landscapes, and who decides what integrated is, and who decides what these crops are grown. So I posted this slide up here again as a bit of a question around sustainable plantations and sustainable construction. And as I say, my interest is in decarbonisation. How do we decarbonise our economy? And if you build a conventional building out of concrete or concrete and steel, about 40% of the lifetime emissions of that building are in the construction of that building. They're in the materials that we use or we choose to use. That 40% is an average figure. It's a little higher in residential buildings. It's lower in non-residential buildings. So if you have a concrete and steel building and you put a solar panel on the roof and you try and say that's net zero or net carbon in operation, that's good, but it's not really cutting it, and it isn't really addressing the issues of embedded carbon in those buildings. And concrete and steel is manufactures about 18% of all global CO2 emissions. So can we use different materials, timber or other biomaterials, to reduce that embedded carbon footprint? And whilst construction is important and something I'm passionate about, we also need to decarbonize textiles. The majority of textiles we use are oil-based. We also need to move away from single-use plastics, and can we use wood-based fibers for a lot of that? So to give a tangible example, in sub-Saharan Africa, we're going to see some of the fastest urban development in the world, probably the fastest anywhere that's ever been. And I've worked in Uganda a few times, and Kampala in Uganda is going to double in size in the next 20 years or so, 20, 30 years. So we're going to go from a population of about 8 million in Kampala to about 15, 16 million. So where are these people going to live? Where are they going to work? And what we're going to build these buildings out of? Over about the same time period, Uganda now has about 15% of its forest cover left. So that's about 3 million hectares, and nearly all of that now is in national parks, protected in national parks. But it's predicted that that deforestation pressure will increase and also move potentially into the national parks. So in the same size time that Kampala doubles in size, we could lose a lot of the remainder of Uganda's forests. So we have a challenge. We have rapidly growing cities using a lot of energy intensive materials. We have expanding populations, and Uganda has also been a safe refuge for a lot of displaced peoples from DRC and from Sudan. Our forests are under pressure, and we need to decarbonize our economies. So how do we increase timber and fiber production without increasing pressure on our natural forests and without impacting food security, which is a key issue? So over the last 50 years, I've been lucky to work with WWF New Generation Plantations platform, and that's the best. If people have a look at that, there's a lot of links and a lot of ideas in there about how we can do this better. And the company I set up is called NGP Technical Assistance, and this is what we try and do based on NGP's approach. And that approach is an integrated landscape approach where plantations can produce efficiently and profitably, and where maintaining ecosystems, whilst maintaining ecosystems and contributing to local socio-economic development. And that's, I suppose, my key message here is, if local communities don't have a stake in plantation forestry, then your project isn't sustainable. And that's as true in Scotland as it is in anywhere else in the world. And it's as simple as that. And it's not just about job creation, that's important, but we need communities to have wider benefit from these economic opportunities in terms of investment and wider development. So I used to work for a large Finnish company. They owned a lot of land in Finland, but they also purchased timber and fiber from 30,000 small forest owners, whose average size was 8 hectares. One of the biggest forestry companies in Sweden is a company called Södra. Södra is basically a cooperative of small forest owners that now owns large sawmills and paper mills. So could we do that in Uganda or in Ghana or in Malawi? Could we have a forestry company that has plantations and has land on a long lease, usually from the government? But how could they work with local neighboring farmers? How can they give farmers confidence to invest in growing trees that might take 10 or 15 years? And can we use more native species of trees rather than relying on exotics? Can we blend the food growing ideas we heard of in the permaculture presentation? Can we blend that into agroforestry and growing timber? So there's another challenge around plantations is sawmills. How do we get investment in sawmills? Because if you're growing timber, you need a sawmill to process it. So we know there's a huge market for construction material in these rapidly expanding cities. So how can we grow more of that timber locally rather than shipping it halfway around the world? I know of Swedish forestry companies who are in Mombasa trying to ship timber down from Scandinavia into East Africa. So I have these questions. How do we decarbonize? How do we grow resilient communities? How do we address these issues of food security and nutrition security that we've heard about? And then how do we de-risk investment to encourage people to invest in these plantations? So we know how not to do plantation forestry. We've got lots of bad examples of bad plantation forestry where various peoples have been dispossessed of their land, or if that has impacted food security or caused local communities to be less resilient. So just sort of wrapping up quickly through this. So please have a look at the NGP website. I'll post a link to a film I've got the link on the slide there, called Journey Without a Map in Uganda. So what I'm interested in, what I do, is we try and build large-scale forest landscape restoration projects and secure funding for them. So that's not just funding for carbon or for timber or for community development, it's funding for everything, trying to build that hybrid model together. We've got examples set up. We've just started in Ghana. We hope we have another one underway in the pipeline in Uganda. So what I believe in is an integrated landscape approach where plantations can produce efficiently and profitably, and can support, maintain ecosystems and do this contribution to economic development. So I'm sorry I haven't come up with any magic answers or silver bullets, and anyone tells you that tree planting is the answer to the quick fix or a quick answer to climate change isn't a forester. You'll read lots of articles in the next month in the run up to COP about tree planting and about forestry. Please check to see that they've actually bothered to speak to a forest manager. So I hope that's been of interest and of help, and I hope I've raised some questions. And as I say, I'm happy to answer questions at the end. Please have a look at the website. Stuart's got my contact details if anyone wants to get in touch with me. So thank you very, very much for the opportunity to join you today.
Really interesting and useful, Andrew. Thanks so much. You say no silver bullets, but I think a clear take home, if I paraphrase, if local communities don't have a stake in local plantations, you don't have a sustainable project. You know, clear lessons from Uganda with projections across sub-Saharan Africa of population growth. Where are people going to live, and what are things going to be built with? So thank you so much. Brenda, I don't know if you're with us. I had extreme internet problems myself yesterday, so I completely sympathise with the inability sometimes to get online. I think not. So we'll see after the event if Brenda has a presentation that she would like to share, and we'll send that to all participants together with a copy of the chat log and a link to the video. Agriculture and renewables. Wongani, also a Malawi youth climate leader. I wonder if you're with us today.
Yes, I'm here.
Fantastic. Welcome. How are you?
I'm fine, and you, sir?
Great. Thank you. Very, very well. Thanks. We're looking forward to hearing your presentation. So over to you.
Okay, fine. I'm Wongani Kapatamoyo, climate change reader. Renewables, these are types of energy that can be replaced as quickly as they are used. And these energies are also called green energies. They are generated from natural resources like sunlight, wind, or hydros. And renewables are very important as long as climate change is concerned, since they emit low levels of carbon emissions, and they are very clean to use, and they can be used as alternatives to fossil fuels like coals, which produces high levels or high amount of carbon emissions, which are very dangerous to our climate. And renewables like renewables that can be like renewable energies that can be produced from sunlight, or that can be produced from hydros, like hydroelectric powers, are very important, and they are good and they are safe. These energies reduces the issues of global warming, since they produce less carbon emissions into the atmosphere. And these renewables, like manufacturing factories in Malawi and in other countries can use these energies as an alternative from the use of coal or other fossil fuels, like fossil gases that produces a lot of carbon emissions. And once they produce a lot of carbon emissions, they deplete the ozone and also disrupt or disturbs the hydrological cycle, which therefore affect the rainfall pattern and also affect food security of the country. But when countries or when the communities are using renewable energies, it's like they're using the energy that cannot cause any harm to the climate or to the environment, and therefore this results in high amount of rainfall, which therefore may lead to high food production in the country. For example, here in Malawi, if we can encourage people, or we can, or the government can reduce the cost of electricity, I think most of the communities or most of the peoples can be using electricity for cooking and for other things instead of using firewood. By using firewood, they degrade or deprade the environment, like they deforestate some land, some forests, leaving that area bare. And that is not good for our environment, for our climate. And it definitely leads into climate change, like global warming of the area, and also the outbreak of pests and diseases, which, excuse me, okay, like the pests and diseases, which also affect the crop production, since the pest, they destroys our crops. For example, like the previous
I'm not sure if we've lost your audio, Wongani. We were hearing you loud and clear and enjoying what you were telling us. I wonder if you're still with us or if you've dropped off. I think that you've been victim to the internet gremlins as well, which we've all had experience of. Thank you very much to Wongani for that. One of Malawi's youth climate leaders, huge competition to become a Malawi youth climate leader, and very much driven by passion and effort at a local level to tackle climate changes. We've been working together with MaSP, with Hendricks and Chinsisi, Louisa here at the Scotland Malawi Partnership, working with the 2050 Climate Group, also on producing a series of COP26 voices of young people in Scotland and Malawi, speaking about the challenges of climate change in their area, very much at the sharp end, as we know, in some districts in Malawi who are experiencing climate change, and that series of videos, the young people make asks of leaders ahead of COP as well, and we're just going to pop a link to that in the chat section. So over to the Chief Exec of Malawi Fruits, Kevin Simpson, who again is a stalwart of forums, and very much appreciate the time that you take to share with us, Kevin. So over to you, please. You're still muted, Kevin.
Thank you. Thank you. Schoolboy error there. Thanks, Stuart. And yeah, good afternoon, everyone. It's great to have an opportunity just to share with you some, our story really of how we've been using renewables to improve the agricultural performance for smallholder farmers. I'm just going to share my screen here if I can. And is that showing up on?
It is, Kevin. Thanks. Yep. Perfect.
Right. Okay. So there's three ways in which we've been using renewable energy to improve yields and quality for farmers. Firstly, these future pumps, solar-powered irrigation pumps, We've deployed now, actually, as of today, we've just reached a milestone of 400 of these pumps with farmers around the north of Malawi. Each pump can irrigate 1 acre or 0.4 hectare of land. And what we've found through that is that farmers can more than double their income. It's fairly self-evident if you provide irrigation, you can grow a crop during the dry season and therefore get 2 crops per year. But actually, we're finding that farmers are doing a bit better than double the income. Many of these farmers are experiencing irrigation for the very first time. Some are using the solar pumps to replace petrol or diesel pumps, but in general, they are using irrigation for the first time. We're also using the irrigation pumps in greenhouses, and our greenhouse farming is relatively new. We've been doing it, I suppose, for 18 months now, concentrating on tomatoes and salad vegetables grown by women in greenhouses with drip irrigation. So the drip irrigation is provided through the solar pump, pumping to a water tank, feeding by gravity into the greenhouses. And here with greenhouse farming with drip irrigation, farmers are experiencing 6 times the yield compared with open field farming. So a massive increase in yield and also increases in quality. There's probably not time just now to explain the contribution that the greenhouse farmer makes to quality. But they've seen these increased yields, increased quality, and the greenhouses that we provide are focused particularly on women growers, because in the north of Malawi, women don't have ready access to agricultural land. But as you can see in our greenhouses, we grow in sacks, so there's no need for the greenhouse to be on good agricultural land. It can be on any land. And that gives an opportunity for women to participate fully in a very productive part of agriculture. And then the third use of renewable energy for us is solar-powered chilled storage. So this refrigerated container that you see in the picture here is actually our third refrigerated chill store that we're deploying in the north of Malawi. And you can see there's 2 doors on that because there's two rooms, which allows us to keep different products at different temperatures. And what we're achieving here is a huge reduction in post-harvest losses, especially if you combine it with good post-harvest training and the use of cropping trays, add on the chilled storage, then we are seeing savings of up to 30% of crop losses, which of course translates into an increase of 30% in people's incomes. So those are the 3 uses that we're making of renewable energy. But we've got 4 questions that we've been grappling with as we've gone through this process, and they're the questions you see on the screen there. Who should own the productive assets? So who should own the pumps, the greenhouses and the chill stores? How are they going to be paid for? How are they going to be maintained? And how do you scale the whole thing up? We're doing this at a reasonable scale now, but there's a great demand locally and certainly a great need to intensify agriculture in this way. Charles referred earlier to the population growth predictions for Malawi, so there needs to be a huge scaling up. I'll just briefly say how we've started to answer these 4 questions. So we see the pumps and the greenhouses as belonging to the farmers. So we provide them through a rent-to-own mechanism where they pay a deposit, they get the asset, they start getting the increased income from the asset, and from that income, they're able to make payments to us for the asset over a 2 or 3 year period, while still experiencing a good increase in their household income. How are they to be paid for? It's all about the market. You know, you have to be able to sell what you produce, and if you can sell what you can produce, especially with the improved quality, the prices are good. One of the things I'm most proud of is that last month we had greenhouses in Mzuzu prison looked after by the prisoners, and we were selling the tomatoes from that to ShopRite supermarket. And I just thought that was great that you've got prisoners in Mzuzu selling their produce to ShopRite. But it's all about the market. So that's how it's paid for. How are they to be maintained? That's about quality. So the future pumps that we use come, believe it or not, with a 10-year parts and labour warranty from the manufacturer. We back that up locally because we're the local agent for that. So we provide full maintenance backup for that. The other bit of this equation is the chilled stores, and we've come to the conclusion that the chilled stores should not belong to the farmers, because the farmers would not readily be able to maintain that and run it the way it should be run in the long term. So we've retained ownership of all the chilled storage, and it's our job to maintain that. We are buying the produce from the farmers, we sell it on with a margin, and that margin enables us to properly maintain everything that's going on. The final thing about scaling up, this has been something that we've struggled with for some time, because in order to get to where we've got to, we've had a succession of grants. We're very grateful to the donors who've given those grants, but it's not really the way to scale up. But what just in the last month, we've signed an MOU with one of the banks in Mzuzu, and they are now going to collect the rent-to-own payments for us from the farmers. Now, the main advantage of doing that is that all the farmers then are able to build a credit history with the bank. The bank is able to see that they are meeting the commitments of their rent-to-own contract. So when they want to buy another pump, another greenhouse, they have a credit history with the bank. They can go to the bank, borrow the money there, and then come and buy the asset for cash, which is, we're really pleased to have got to that point, because we just see that as really significant in terms of scaling up. So thank you very much. I'll stop there, and back to you, Stuart.
Tremendous, Kevin. Thanks very much. How inspiring to hear of a six-fold increase in yields through drip irrigation, and interested to hear another time about the increase in quality. All about the market and your key questions there, and a brilliant initiative with the bank enabling the farmers to establish a credit history there as well. We're drawing towards the end of our time, but I would like to offer the chance for anybody to make any comments or ask any questions. Do please just jump in. I'm scrolling through screens to see if there's anybody gesticulating wildly. But I wonder if anybody has any questions. I think Penny Morton, you had a question about joint ventures. Would you like to come in and speak to that?
Hello.
Hello, go ahead.
No, it was just when I saw the questions on the screen on how do we pay for this. This is something that we're working on as well. We're looking to build a small portable lightweight machine for rural farmers, so we can create and retain the value there and really rebalance the value chain to get women in a lot more involved. And yeah, that's something, those questions are exactly what we face, and we've actually done a lot of work in terms of looking to servitize our machines. So we own the machine, and then they pay, so it's pay as you mill. So then they pay a set fee to use the machine, and it's kind of looking at how we can make high performance machinery accessible to everyone. It's too expensive for them to buy over here, and we can manufacture it in country, but there's things with that as well. And so yeah, it was just interesting to see your questions, and we're also looking at doing joint ventures, which is something that just sprung to mind when I saw your question. So making sure that in country they have a percentage or they own the company themselves. So a joint venture, which just sprung to mind. But yeah, very interesting presentation, and yeah, definitely noting down your name. So yeah, thank you.
Super, thanks very much, Penny. Mike Beresford.
Thank you. My question was really, how effectively the farmers are able to pay off the cost of their solar pumps, and if they don't, who acts, what happens?
Okay, so we've been on a bit of a journey with that, and I would say the point we've reached now, and this is partly because our capacity has increased, but we are now in a position to buy all the produce from the farmers, and that system makes the whole thing much easier. So we we recover the cost of the pump, the cost of the greenhouse on as a small percentage of each and every kilogram of produce. That way the farmer doesn't feel it so much. You know, it just automatically comes off, and that's working really well. Before, when the farmer was having the harvest, selling the crop, and then we're going knocking on the door with all the competing voices that the farmer has for a small amount of money, that was much tougher and much harder work, and we don't particularly want to go back there. So, you know, not hugely successful. Because we were funded by grants to buy the kit in the first place, that wasn't disaster for us, but it's definitely not a business-like way to go about things, and doesn't let you scale up. So I would say the rent to own really only works effectively if you're also the off-taker, the buyer of the produce.
Great, thanks very much for the open sharing, Kevin. All of the chat that is addressed to everyone will be collated and sent by email. So do please pop any questions, comments, or contacts that you'd like to have in that. And as I say, we'll send a link to the full video. So this is the time I like to pass the buck to David Hope-Jones, our Chief Exec, to pull threads together from a 90-minute meeting into just 3 minutes. If you can make it rhyme, David, as well, that'd be great. Over to you, David. I don't know if you can hear me. Somebody give me a wave if you can hear me. I'm not sure if David can.
Lost.
James has given me the thumbs up. That's great. David, over to you.
Hello, Stuart. Sorry, I think I lost you there for a second. Had you passed to me?
Yes, in a very waffly and indeterminate way, but please go ahead.
Sorry, just 2 seconds, Stuart.
We can see and hear you, David. I don't know if...
Fantastic, you're back. Sorry, the problem was I lost audio for a moment, but I'm here now. We've heroically navigated a few technical challenges this afternoon. So thanks for bearing with that last one. Thanks very much. I'll just take maybe just a very quick moment to summarize what I see as some of the key next steps from the excellent speakers that we've had today. Thank you to all of our contributors, and thank you, Stuart, for chairing so well as you always do. Luwayo, Biswick, at the beginning, I was really struck by the Permaculture Paradise Institute. And I think there's really important work that we can do, the SNP, but also all of our constituent members in promoting that messaging about what can be achieved in Malawi, following their example through the use of grey and black water, through innovative approaches to fertilizer and so on. So we're really keen to share that message and encourage our members to share it with their partners. Joyce, as always, a fantastic contribution, and thank you for that. I mean, one of the things I know Joyce raised was the idea of increased farmer linkages between Scotland and Malawi, and the exchange of ideas. So we're keen to come back to that. We'll speak to Joyce directly, and if you would like to be a part of that conversation, please contact Stuart or I. We're keen to build on what historically has happened in this space, the excellent work that Scotland's Rural College has done with Bunda College, and there's good learning there. Some of those personnel have moved on. Ms. Chagunda was a great champion, of course, in this space, but many of his colleagues at SIUC are still there. But also, I think Joyce's quite right challenge about trade and not just aid, and promoting Mzuzu coffee as a export from Malawi, where the value has been added within Malawi. That will continue to be a priority for us. Simon, always fantastic to have FCDO with us from Malawi. I was really struck by a few things that he was talking about, particularly the Building Resilience and Adaptation to Climate Change program. I know there's a couple of questions and comments about how members could feed into that, so we'll keep that conversation going with Simon and his colleagues in Malawi. We'll flag up opportunities for members to be involved. But I think just keeping pressure up on FCDO and the UK government generally to continue their work in Malawi in this and all areas. Numbers coming out last week looked as if the cut would be in the region of 52% to UK aid's budget in Malawi. So I worry that many of those excellent programs that we heard about today that look so impactful might decrease in the period ahead. So I think there's a key role for us as a network to celebrate and champion what FCDO are doing in this and other spaces in Malawi. I thought Wongani was absolutely brilliant, and I've always been inspired by the Malawi youth climate leaders. I think if we're going to have a meaningful voice in COP26 for Malawi, I think that youth voice is incredibly important. Median age of 17. Young Malawians will inherit the climate that we leave them, and making sure they have a voice in those discussions, I think, is critical. So I'm very pleased that we in this meeting made that space, and will continue to, for the impactful and valued voice of our younger contributors. Kevin, thank you very much for your presentation. Hugely useful. I think your questions and challenges around ownership of assets, around who pays for it, who maintains it, and how do you scale up, I think are so important. And really pleased, Penny, to hear already the sort of cross-fertilization, to carefully pick my metaphor, between our members in this space, and really encourage others to do that. I think Malawi Fruits, looking at what they've done over the last 10 years, and credit where it's due to Kevin and colleagues, is fantastic. That challenge that they've asked themselves and others, and that learning journey, as Kevin said it. So I think we as a community of actors across Scotland, across Malawi, the more that we can share those challenges, that self-awareness and that development, the better. So as a network, these sort of digital forums are all about obviously sharing, about increasing our awareness, about making new connections, and about collaborating. So really encourage everyone to try and do all of that. If there's anyone that you've heard speak so far that you don't have their contact details for, ask for it now before we finish, or if you don't have that opportunity, ask us and we will give it to you. We will obviously share the video from today with timestamps. That means it's really easy for you to share yourself. So to put it up on social media and say, hey, look at what this guy was saying, I find this interesting. We want to use social media to be able to continue the discussion, to be able to continue the debate. Two quick asks, if I may, in closing. We really want to update a few sections on our website. Really encourage everyone here today to update their own member profiles. If you're a member of the Scotland Malawi Partnership, you have a member profile on our website. Search the members directory to find it. A lot of it's out of date, and I think there's great material and content from today's meeting that we will use to populate it. We'll also look to update the trade and agriculture section to our website, and I will just now post the web link to that. We'll put videos from today up onto that updated page, but have a look at it. And if you've got any other information, any other case studies, any other videos that you want up on that page, please do let us know. And just finally, obviously, COP26 is our big priority over the next 6 months. It's come up various times through today. Thanks, Joyce, for promoting the Ants and the Grasshopper film that we're helping sponsor, showing that crucial messaging about the impact of climate change on agriculture and subsistence farming in Malawi, as well as the powerful themes of gender equality. I encourage everyone to be involved with that film, to watch it and to share it. But let's keep this conversation going, particularly over the next 6-7 weeks or so. Let's use COP26 to really help amplify Malawi's voice on key issues relating to climate change, agriculture and food security. Stuart, back to you, and apologies again for the slight tech problem as you handed over to me. I feel I dropped the baton somewhat, but
no,
back to you, Stuart.
No, thanks, David. That's great. And thanks very much also to Craig, who has been the technical wizard for all of our Zoom, and has popped up a 2-question, very quick feedback. If you're willing to tick boxes there, that would be much appreciated. I'm just going to get rid of that from my screen as well. And also thanks to my colleague Jade, who does all of the promotion and comms wizardry. Our tweet hashtag is @ScotlandMalawi. You're very welcome to follow us on any of the social media platforms. And finally, a last little advert there that Craig's popped up, the aforementioned Ants and Grasshopper documentary film Our own David Hope-Jones speaking at the Royal Geographical Society of Scotland on Livingstone's Living Legacy. We can also much recommend the much refurbished and reimagined Livingstone Birthplace Museum and just outside Blantyre, just outside Glasgow. Youth and Schools Forum on the 5th of October. Our AGM with His Excellency the President of Malawi and Professor Samson Kambalu on the 9th of October. Our regular COVID coordination meeting combined with our Health Forum on the 20th of October, and an opportunity in the Malawi Cross-Party Group on the 20th of October to meet your member of the Scottish Parliament. So with that, thank you very much indeed to all of our speakers and to you for giving up your time. We'll be in touch with those promised resources afterwards. But for now, take care. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Stuart.